and infidels. My name's Khadija, and I'm not Mohammed's wife, and may peace and blessings not be upon him. I'm going to speak really fast today because of time constraints, so I'll just go straight into it. So I was in a prison for 33 years, and I can see you're all looking confused. I was in a physical prison, an emotional, and I can see you're all looking confused. I was in a physical prison, an emotional prison, and in a psychological prison, and that prison was called Islam. And I, like 100% of Muslims who were born into an ideology which kept me in shackles for 33 years of my life. And this is just a small postage stamp of some of the experiences that I, as a Muslim woman, born and raised in this country, educated and grown, and I actually grew up in a very westernized family as well, with parents that came from Kashmir, and they chose to assimilate and integrate into this culture. My dad used to go to the pub, he worked in the cotton mills, but he was British before he was Pakistani. So as a child and as a young woman, I knew an Islam which was kind, tolerant, loving, because my father was an a la carte Muslim. He only chose the good bits of the Quran, and everything else he chose to ignore. In the community, he wasn't even a Muslim, and that's the truth of it. In 2000, I got married to a British-born Pakistani man who was university educated and in a really respectable profession. He was very modern, very westernized, and while we dated, and after a short 12 months, we were married at home under a Sharia-style marriage. It was at this point that my beliefs and experiences of Islam were completely challenged. He went from being Mr. Nice to Mr. Islam. I very quickly realised that in Islam, a woman is never independent in her own right. All the rights that I had been afforded to me by the British culture and by the British values. It was not through Islam. I suffered 12 years of abuse, and Islam provided my husband the platform to treat me as an inferior subordinate. In 2005, I was forced to perform the Hajj with him and his extended family. Whilst in the most sacred place in the whole world known to Muslims, I was sexually assaulted, not once, but twice. I couldn't scream, I couldn't escape, I couldn't even tell anybody what had happened, I couldn't report it. Because in Islam, I would need two witnesses. I would need two witnesses, male witnesses. If it was women, they didn't need to be four, because women are of deficient mind. So there was no witnesses. But also, because I was married, if I had no witnesses, I would be accused of adultery. And that meant the punishment of either being stoned or 100 lashes. And I was not going to put myself through that. I told my husband, who really rejoiced and reminded me that Allah was punishing me because I was a slag. And maybe I should have been raped to be taught a lesson and to be more obedient to my husband. When a Muslim woman claims that she's emancipated and that Islam gives her all these freedoms and rights, I would like to challenge and highlight the emotional manipulation which has gone on since birth to these Muslim women. They have an unqualified position. Muslim women in this country have the rights because of this country, because of the rights that this country has afforded them. They coexist and they get freedoms because of this country. Women in Islamic countries don't seem to champion the same sentiments because Islam doesn't afford them the same privileges. Women are being killed in Islamic countries who are fighting for basic human rights of equality. You only need to look at Iran, where women are burning the hijab, while Muslim women here are desperately defending the burqa in defiance of our cultures and our norms. In 2012, I left my abusive husband seeking a divorce from Sharia courts. These courts are run by stale, old men who arbitrate on marital issues. They are biased, they have no formal training, and in fact, they told me that I had to go to mediation with my abuser. I had to sit in a room with my abuser. And they also told me that if I didn't go back to my ex-husband, I would burn in hell. During my Islamic marriage, and even after I left, I realised that I had to suffer many injustices and inequalities because of the religion that I was born into, a religion that I had no choice of, and a religion that doesn't afford me the right to leave. I found myself suffering, and ultimately, it gave me confirmation that I was of no value. I was just a replaceable worker contracted to a man who controlled my life. Islam encourages and supports and advocates the abuse of women, and I was a victim to this. I don't cry about this now because I'm in a different place. In 2013, I was challenged by a Christian who is now my partner about Islam. It was a heated but very friendly debate where we compared Muhammad and Jesus, the morals and the values that both of these men championed. And after 12 months of ding-dong debate, the truth set me free. Not only did I accept Christianity on an intellectual level, but I also had a personal experience which gave me the courage to actually leave Islam. I'm now an ex-Muslim and I want to be free to exist as an ex-Muslim. I want to be free to criticize an ideology which kept me blindfolded and maimed for 33 years, which robbed me of my own respect and my personal freedoms, because I didn't feel as though I was somebody. I was a Muslim woman. That was my identity. If people are offended, I would say, great. Sometimes it's that provocation that we need to actually stir the melting pot of dialogue and debate. We must be able to have a platform to discuss ideas, and we must be prepared to be offended in order to produce a stable society where we can be honest and not allow political correctness to dismantle this beautiful country. A country where men and women surrendered their lives fighting for the very freedoms that are being stolen from us today by an ideology which encompasses a political system to take over the West, the kuffar, but also by a coward government who are being bullied by Islam because they do not want to be called a racist, a fascist or a bigot. Well, I say, to hell with these labels. Jesus was labelled many things, but he stood for the truth. We must never ever forget that this country was built on Judeo-Christian values and freedoms based on respect, friendship and tolerance. Islam has studied the British culture enough to learn that its best ally is to use the very values of this great country against us. Islam will play the victim and become the face of vulnerability. It has aligned itself with the left to fulfill its agenda. When they throw the racist label at us, we really need to challenge this peaceful religion and remember that it is Islam that is a racist. It is Islam that is a fascist. It was Muhammad who hated blacks. It was him who championed black people as slaves. We are not the racists. We just want to restore our country and our future back to where it was. Islam knows the only way it can win. Islam knows the only way that it can win this battle or jihad for supremacy is by numerical advantage, procreation and fear. This country is built on Judeo-Christian values of democracy, rule of law, individual liberty, mutual respect and tolerance of those with any faith or even no faith. In contrast to these values, would Islam afford me any of those values? Would Islam allow me as an ex-Muslim my individual liberties? No. Under Sharia, I would be killed. Would Islam give me, an ex-Muslim, the mutual respect that our Great Britain extends to everyone, regardless of their race, their age, their gender, their sexual preference? No. Would Islam be tolerant towards my personal choice of faith? No. Would Islam allow democracy? Absolutely not. The very tenets of Islam are built upon totalitarian dictatorship. Would Islam encourage to coexist with the country's rule of law? No. Islam wants to establish Sharia. They're already here, they're already doing it. They have Sharia courts, they have Sharia banks, they have Sharia mortgages, they have their Sharia dress codes. Islam wants to be above the law, and our laws need to bend and break to tolerate their faith and individual liberties. If we fail to do this, we are not showing tolerance or mutual respect. And they will play the victim and the race card. We really have shot ourselves in the foot. It deeply saddens me that my children, your children, our children are growing up in a world which is riddled with injustice, that has become so dysfunctional, a place of wicked politics where the truth is no longer the truth. Our children are being indoctrinated into the left-wing mentality at schools, and instead of being taught how to be critical and how to think honestly, they're being pushed into the leftist narrative. It sickens me that any one of us in this room today could suffer the consequences simply for standing for the truth, and not having the reassurance of the law being applied fairly to protect our freedoms and rights. So where do we go from here? Very quickly. What's the solution? 1, keep our British values at the very forefront of our movement. And the main one that should take precedence is that the rule of law should be applied to all equally. Secondly, to continue to speak about Islam and its incompatibility with our values. Thirdly, to make a stand united with the truth. The truth shall set us free. Islam wants us to be scaremongered into silence and to back off. And it would be so easy to be bullied into a state of silent cooperation and sit at home with your brew watching EastEnders. Not that I do that, but but if we stand together, if we speak together, and if we be brave together, we can normalise this dialogue. We can show Islam that we are not afraid of this barbaric ideology. We cannot give up. We simply cannot give up. When we keep silent, we endanger those who speak. The Anne-Marie, the Katie Hopkins, the Shazias, everyone who speaks up, we endanger them by staying silent. So our silence needs to stop being silent. If we all showed solidarity to what is true, Islam will not prevail. We have to challenge the labels that we are being brandished with and dismantle the term Islamophobia, Islamism. These are intellectual imposters. They're not real things. They're not real truths. They don't exist. And they're simply trying to distort the credibility of the truth. We should have the right to criticize all religions and ideas, especially if they are bad ideas. And ideas which do not fit in with this country's values and morals. I was born a Muslim. I never had a choice. And in fact, Islam doesn't afford me the right to even leave. In Islam, even the most critical, free-thinking Muslims who see beyond the facade and the rose-tinted glasses of the religion of peace have to take a few long, deep breaths before they step into the Bermuda Triangle of apostasy. Because when they leave Islam, they divorce everything that they have known from birth. They're ostracized by their communities, by their families, and they really are alone. We need to get more Muslims to turn away from Islam. We can stop immigration. We can stop it. That's fine. But what about the Muslims that already exist here that are peddling that ideology? What about those Muslims? We need to be able to say to them, look, there is a safe place for you. Look, it's normal for you to leave Islam. We need to have more ex-Muslims that come out of the closet to continue to highlight the barbaric truths that are screaming out of the Quran. We need to make it normal for people to leave Islam, and we need to make it safe for them to do so. We need to have a new family waiting for them, a new home for them to cling to. We are a minority within a minority. We have to give hope to Muslims who want to leave, because they really are the first victims of Islam. Islam will crumble at the foundations once they leave. And finally, this country was built on Judeo-Christian values. And you know what? We all have to take responsibility for being in the situation that we are in. Because you know what we did? We gave the slowest kid in the class a platform. We did. And, you know, let's be brutally honest. Whether you're religious or not, Christianity gave our country a sovereign morality. We were the bastions of values and etiquette around the world, and we've completely stepped away from that. Our children are no longer nourished with Sunday school foundations. We're not allowed to speak about Christianity in schools and those values that this country was built upon. Instead, our children are being told to go to mosques. We have created a void which is being filled and plugged by the left, by Islam, by socialism, by globalism, and every other ism that you can think of. And if you've not thought of it, they will think of it. Islam is causing a deprogramming of this great country, and they are on their way to reprogramming Great Britain into what they want. Unless we get back to our Christian roots, whether you're religious or not, get back to those Christian roots. Do it for the love of your country. Do it for your children. Do it for your neighbours, your friends. Do it for the men and women that died and shed their bloods for the freedoms that are being snatched away from us today. We are facing an ideological, a spiritual, and a physical battle before us. And finally, I just want to say thank you to Anne-Marie. It was less than 12 months ago that this party was formed, and I just want to say that it's because of your braveness, your boldness, your immutable voice, your strength and your resilience that we are all here. And without that, Anne-Marie, I don't think we really would be up the creek. So this is the way forward, and thank you.